Let me speak briefly about the format here, and it looks like I'm really thankful for our staff and Sergeant-at-Arms so we can move through this quickly. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. We have 60 speakers signed up, and what we will ask them to do is speak, be prepared to speak next, and when the sign goes up for 2 minutes, you'll be able to finish your last sentence and then move along. Otherwise, we just won't be able to hear from everyone. So please, I don't want that to be rude, but just respectful for everyone who has a lot of important things to say. And finally, that was it. So let's get right to our speakers. I think
and our local K-12 schools and districts. We believe that it is important for North Carolina to maintain its focus on higher, more rigorous college and career readiness standards. Our institutions of higher education expect students who leave high school prepared for whatever pathway is before them after they've walked across a high school graduation stage. The days of merely having a diploma to succeed in today's changing economy are over. And we're simply not talking about the ability to work in today's technology age. We need students who are prepared to read, write, think, and problem solve. Over 65% of students entering community colleges need remediation, resulting in cost into the millions of dollars. This doesn't represent the staggering amounts of cost to students' time, wasted financial aid, or perhaps worst of all, the agony of students who get frustrated and beleaguered by their inability to successfully obtain a credential, skills, or knowledge. These are costs that North Carolina's future cannot bear. One study predicts that by 2018, almost 60% of North Carolina's jobs will require some form of a post-secondary credential, be it a certificate, associate's degree, or any other credential along towards a bachelor's degree or beyond. To meet these challenges, our higher education institutions are eager to work with you and all of our K-12 partners to deepen skills and knowledge as well as to develop our workforce. But in order to do so, we must have clear, focused, readiness standards for what it is that we want our students to know and be able to do. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and distinguished members, my name is Patrick Abele. I'm an employee of the Iredell-Statesville Schools, and I'm also a parent. I'm speaking in support of the Common Core state standards. First and foremost, the standards move students beyond simply memorizing basic facts to thinking critically at the level necessary to be successful. The standards help ensure that students, no matter where they live, are prepared for success beyond high school. I want to emphasize a key point you may hear from others today. The standards do not tell teachers how to teach, but specify to teachers what knowledge and skills their students should have. Teachers can still customize lesson plans, learning activities, and projects to meet the needs of their students. Our district has had great success in implementing Common Core. Many districts across the state like ours have been working for several years to ensure we're preparing the students and teachers for the academic expectations of the Common Core. I want to share some of the comments from teachers who support Common Core. Our students need to learn how to work together, think deeply, and solve problems. The Common Core helps us go deeper with learning rather than skimming the surface of a topic or unit. The standards encourage students to learn to synthesize and analyze information, not just memorize enough material to pass multiple choice tests. For the first time, Common Core standards close gaps between grade levels and courses and gives our students the critical thinking and reasoning skills they need to be successful adults. In closing, I want to tell you about one of my favorite posters by Bernard Baruch. The poster has an illustration of a row of apples with one unique apple that stands out from the rest. The caption reads, "Millions saw the apple fall, but Newton asked why." I am very glad Newton asked this question. The question why is relevant today for our students as it was for Newton. The Common Core state standards reminds us of the importance of having standards where students must know why. I thank you for the time.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm Mark Jewell, Vice President of the North Carolina Association of Educators. For the past several years, educators across North Carolina and the country have been working to build the new standards for curriculum that embodies the needs of our 21st century students. In North Carolina, communities of educators from across the state have come together working with staff at the Department of Public Instruction to build our North Carolina Essential Standards. These standards provide a framework for what is accomplished in the classroom on a daily basis. These standards are not, and were never meant to be, restrictive, rote, commonplace, nor were they meant to limit the creativity of classroom teachers. The common standards are just that, standards. They are designed to be more rigorous and to bring clarity to the work done across the state and across the country. We have heard from teachers time and time again that the issue in our state is not the standards themselves. In fact, over 80% are in support of the standards and how they impact student thinking and understanding. The issues we hear and the problems we see are that our teachers are not given enough time to teach, time to collaborate, and the time to work together to ensure that the best practices are being implemented and the best learning can take place. The fast implementation created some of the negative groundswell that you've heard. Another major concern is the burdensome assessments required by some of our locals on top of the other mandated assessments, along with teacher-made assessments. We are spending more time analyzing test scores rather than asking questions among our team about what can be done differently to ensure students grasp key concepts. We are simply over-assessing our students, or as some say, double testing in some subjects. Teachers are not opposed to assessing students. They do it every day and with a formative and for continuous feedback. We need to think of ways to improve how we assess students, and we need to trust and respect teacher judgment. Again, it's not the standards, it's the over-assessment and the time taken away from teaching. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and distinguished members of the committee. My name is Debra Horton, and I'm the Executive Director of the North Carolina PTA. Our goal at North Carolina PTA is to help families help their children succeed in school. One way that parents can help their children succeed in school is to learn about and understand the current standard expected of their children. North Carolina PTA has worked since 2010 to help parents understand the changes to the standards. From August of 2010 in Goldsboro to June 1st of 2013 in Raleigh, North Carolina PTA has trained about 2,000 parents in direct one-on-one day-long presentations that have resulted in 94,000 school student families seeing or receiving North Carolina Standard Course of Study information from North Carolina PTA. Our advocates participated in the open comment process by North Carolina PTA and with local systems in voicing their opinions on curriculum, textbook adoption, etc. Parents, educators, and other members of school communities were exposed to the ways these high standards give learning rigor and relevance to the real world. They focus on problem solving and critical thinking skills, not solely on rote memorization of particular facts or figures that have little relationship to success later in life. They articulate to parents, teachers, and the general public expectations for what students will know and be able to do grade by grade when they graduate from high school. These updates will reflect best practices and standards development from around the world. North Carolina PTA supports higher standards for students and believes that the changes made to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study to include the objectives of the Common Core standards will benefit our students in their preparation for being successful citizens later in life. But parents must be included in the continued development, improvement, and implementation of the standards. Studies have shown that when parents are actively engaged in their children's education, student achievement outcomes are improved. North Carolina PTA works every day to give information and empowerment to our families all over North Carolina to make the best decisions for their student learning. We encourage them to be part of the decision-making process in their local schools. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the comments from 130,000 members across the state. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the study committee. My name is Lynn Taylor. I'm a private educator here in the state of North Carolina, as well as a citizen, and I'm opposed to the Common Core standards. My main objectives, based on my extensive research that spans the last 5 years before Common Core was even known, but leading us toward national curriculum, is first and foremost, it violates our U.S. Constitution. It also envelops several government agencies outside the Department of Education that span all the way to the United Nations. It is not educator-based, and many professional educators refuse to sign off on these particular standards. There have been no field testing implementations done. It promotes educational discrimination among those with special needs, or those who are gifted, or those outside public education. The content is inappropriate for some students. It also removes fact-based learning with feelings. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand, for every second we allow these standards to survive, we help erode children's love of learning. For every substandard goal these particular curriculum and standards carry forward from here, we chip away at constitutionally protected rights. For every dollar that's spent by public government and private business corporations because of Common Core or on Common Core, somewhere American families are losing part of their legacy and will bear the ultimate burden. Members, seek people like myself out who've done extensive fact-based research. We can together help you solve this problem. We can help make North Carolina great again and stop exposing our children to anything that is so ill-written, poorly conceived, and insidious as Common Core. My name is Lynn Taylor, and I'm opposed to the standards.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Michael Maher. I'm the Assistant Dean for Teacher Education at NC State. I'm a former teacher in North Carolina, and I'm also the parent of 2 children, 4th and 6th grade here in North Carolina, in North Carolina Public Schools. I think it's important to remember that the Common Core standards are just that. They're a set of standards, which means they're goals, something to aspire to. It is not a curriculum. This provides a great deal of opportunity for teachers in North Carolina to come together and work to develop their own curriculum. This really does represent what I think is a paradigm shift in the way that we are teaching children. For example, the move from procedural understanding to conceptual understanding in mathematics is very different from the way in which I was taught and the way in which many of you were taught. And that becomes very confusing for parents. It's not simple anymore, right? So we ask children now to explain how they came up with their answer, to think deeply about these problems. And just because something's different doesn't necessarily mean it's worse. I think this presents an incredible opportunity for us. For example, when children merely learn algorithms and algorithmic thinking, what happens when they get older and they no longer remember the algorithm? They don't have that conceptual understanding to fall back on. That's one of the reasons these standards are important. Additionally, as a parent, I appreciate the recursiveness of these standards in the elementary school. Last year, I was helping my children do their homework, and it was really interesting to me that both of them, at the time they were in 3rd grade and 5th grade, both doing fractions homework at the same time. And as a parent, being able to see the different level of rigor for my 5th grader than for my 3rd grader. So I think we hear a lot about what kids can't do based on these standards, but I spend a good deal of time in schools as part of my professional work, and I see a lot of what my children are doing, and I think you will be surprised at what kids can do when they're given the opportunity. Thank you for your time.